Hello. Hello.
Yes, madam. You start now, madam. You start now. You start now, madam.
My voice is audible to all of you?
Yes, it is audible, ma'am. It is audible. It is audible.
Shall I start now?
Yes, 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 please.
Good evening and namaskar to all of you, esteemed senior members of the philosophy family, respected philosophy faculties, and the resource persons of different sessions, and of course, resource person of today's evening, members of the organizing committee, Dr. Kailash Chandra Maharana sir, Dr. K. Om Narayan Rao sir, and Debashish Sarangi, and my dear student friends. Today is the 12th day of Western Philosophy series. Today we have with us as the resource person Sri Pramod Kumar Das sir and Mrs. Nivedita Priyadarshini as moderator. Today's resource person Pramod Kumar Das actually needs no introduction. He is the chief architect of the Taj Mahal, that is philosophy family. As a student, he was brilliant, and as a teacher, he is simply excellent. For the last 10 to 12 days, he was fighting emotionally so that he will reach to us philosophically. Actually, his wife was in intensive care unit. She had an accident. Now, of course, she is fine and she moved to general ward. So, on behalf of the philosophy family, we all wish her speedy recovery. Coming to today's resource person, Sri Pramod Kumar Das sir, I can simply say he is not only talks philosophy, rather he lives in philosophy. Presently, he is working as the head of the Department of Philosophy, Noyagad Autonomous College, Noyagad, Odisha. Today he is going to speak on the philosophy of Immanuel Kant and particularly on Copernican revolution, synthetic a priori judgments, etc. Kant's, when we talk about Kant's philosophy, Kant is famous for three critics, that is the critique of pure reason, critique of practical reason, and critique of judgment. Kant's critics are just like jigsaw puzzles. Once some pieces are in place, it becomes progressively easier to figure out what other pieces must look like. His philosophy is like a crossroad which opens up new ideas and new systems like subjective idealism, objective idealism, pragmatism, logical positivism, and so on and so forth. So, with this, I welcome you all to this webinar program, and now I am requesting Sri Pramod Kumar Das sir to address the participants on the topic, on the given topic, that is philosophy of Immanuel Kant. Pramod sir, please. Hello.
Yes, madam. Yes, madam. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay. Respected Dr. Kalyani Sorangi, my big sister, respected Dr. Kailash Chandra Maharana, respected Dr. K. M. Narayan Rao, my dear brother Debashish Sarangi, and very esteemed participants. Today we shall discuss the philosophy of Immanuel Kant. So far, in the history of philosophy, we are discussing about what philosophy is. Kant was interested in speaking of a philosopher. What a, what should be, what should like a philosopher? What is the nature of a philosopher? What is the duty of a philosopher? What is the vision of a philosopher? Kant not only made a revolution in philosophy, he paved the path of perfection in living a beautiful life, human life, honest life. In other words, Kant was a very honest man. He was honest in morality, he was honest in intellectuality, and he was honest in spirituality. Philosophical thinking should not be confined to mere analysis or mere scientific inquiry. Philosophical inquiry should be very comprehensive. It should cover all the aspects of human life, cognitive, cognitive, and affective. Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram. Truth and knowledge. That is one part. Perfection, morality. That is another aspect of a man. And willpower. That is also another part of our Sundara, beauty, sense of a beauty, sense of a beauty, aesthetics. So Kant has emphasized basically the three aspects of human life, that is cognition, then connection, then affection, knowing, willing, and feeling. With that perspective, Kant has worked in these three areas, and his enterprises, his works are well known. One is, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay. So far as cognitive perfection is concerned, Kant has beautifully discussed in his critique of pure reason. So far as morality is concerned, Kant has beautifully discussed in his work critique of practical reason. And so far as the sense of beauty, Kant has worked through his critique of judgment. And Kant is convinced of the fact that these three aspects, such as knowledge, morality, and the sense of beauty, these three aspects make a man complete. According to Kant, this nature is very beautiful. We should see the beauty in nature, beauty in human personality, beauty in nature, and beauty in human personality. Man, man should live a beautiful life. There is an aesthetic sense, and man should have that sense. That is discussed in Critique of Judgment. And man should live a very moral life. And Kant is famous for his theory of morality, categorical imperative, goodwill, the universal principle of morality, and every man is an end in himself. Such things are very um, clearly discussed in Critique of Practical Reason, and Kant is very much famous for his theory of morality. And in Critique of Pure Reason, Kant says what should be the status of knowledge. Now we shall focus on Critique of Pure Reason. For Kant, the method, Kant also introduced a method in philosophy as all other philosophers have already introduced their own methods. For example, if we shall start from Bacon, Bacon is famous for his method, inductive method. Bacon said that knowledge should give a new information, and only inductive procedure can give us new information. Newness, knowledge, the status of knowledge should be newness. We should get new information. If knowledge does not give new knowledge, new information, that is not knowledge. I know something means I know something new. And in inductive procedure, we always get a new information, not in deduction. In deduction, the conclusion is already contained in the premises. So the conclusion does not give us any new information. Very shortly, we can say that Bacon is famous for his inductive method. Similarly, Descartes followed his method of universal doubt. He said that knowledge should be self-evident, knowledge should be universal, knowledge should be rational, and that truth should be self-evident. So universal doubt is the method of Descartes. Then comes Spinoza. In Spinoza, we find Spinoza established a method that there shall be a fundamental principle by which everything can be explained. So this method leads to monism, and he says that there is substance, and substance is the ultimate principle, and from that ultimate principle, we can explain everything. Then he introduced attributes and modes, and he is also famous for his method of the fundamental principle, one principle. Then comes Leibniz. Leibniz introduced a method. Leibniz introduced a method in philosophy. According to Leibniz, that the highest principle can explain the world, and the smallest principle can explain the world as well. Spinoza said only one principle, the world is explained by one principle, that is substance. So that was one-way traffic. He started from substance and reached at modes through attributes. Substance can explain modes, but modes cannot explain the substance. So we cannot go backward from modes to substance. But Leibniz introduced a method, that is monadology. He said that uh, everything can explain everything. Everything, if you take anything, that can explain the totality. The highest Anu and Bhuma. In Advaita Vedanta, it is called Anu and Bhuma. The highest principle can explain everything, and the lowest principle can explain everything. This is a unique method that is introduced by Leibniz. Then come to Locke, John Locke. John Locke said that only John Locke's method is epistemological by nature. He says that we shall start our philosophical inquiry from the origin of knowledge. The origin of knowledge is from sense experience. So sense experience is the only source of knowledge, and that is the fundamental principle. And if this is the principle, then its conclusions will be accordingly will follow accordingly. If everything is perceived, and if we accept the truth as per it according to our perception, then there is a doubt whether substance, the knowledge of substance is ascertained or not. He says substance is there as the ontological ground, but I know not what. I cannot know, I cannot ascertain the existence of substance, but logically we can say the substance must exist as the ground of the existence of the qualities. So where from this conclusion came? Now from his method, that the method, the epistemological method, that knowledge is only knowledge by perception. Then comes Berkeley. What Berkeley said, to be is to be perceived. This is the method of Berkeley. To be is to be perceived. If we can speak of existence of anything, then the fundamental principle is that it must be perceived. If we do not perceive anything, then we cannot say, we cannot ascertain its existence. So his method is to be perceived. Then comes Hume. Hume says that whatever is distinguishable, that is separable. That means our perceptions, our sensations are discrete. There is no logical connection between them. If this is the principle, then what shall be the conclusion? And there is no substance at all, no matter, no mind, no God. Then comes Kant. Kant's unique method is synthetic a priori judgment, and we shall discuss that. How is it the method of Immanuel Kant? So I described the methods of philosophers from Bacon to David Hume. Now the question comes, do these philosophers justify their methods? Suppose I introduce a method. I have liberty, I have freedom to introduce a method. Then it is my moral duty, to justify that method. But Kant observed that all these philosophers have failed somehow or other to justify their methods. For example, again, we shall start from Bacon. How Bacon failed in his method, how Descartes failed in his method, how Spinoza failed in his method. Bacon gave the introduced the inductive method, and by inductive method we cannot speak of the universality. We cannot speak of universality. Even if we generalize a statement, that generalization is subject to uh, probability. We cannot ascertain the certainty of the conclusion. Induction cannot gives us certain knowledge or the certitude. So that is the problem of induction. So induction, in history of philosophy, Bacon's method has no use at all. Nowhere we see, rather Mill's procedure of induction is better used. Mill's contribution is more than Bacon. So that is not the inductive method is not so useful. Bacon. Then comes Descartes. Descartes gives universal doubt. Universal doubt as a method, it is all right. As a method, it is all right. But if we speak of only innate ideas are there, some innate ideas are there, innate ideas are useless if they do not explain, if they do not describe the facts. If innate ideas are only confined to mind and they are not connected to the practical world, then that is not the proper philosophy. So Descartes, that is also the limitation of Descartes. Spinoza introduced a method that is that is one substance, and by that one principle, he tried to explain everything. But so far as the modes are concerned, so far as the worlds are concerned, the philosophy of Spinoza tried to explain the world, but in course of his explanation, he actually explained away the world. Explained away the world. So that ended in speculation. And in Leibniz is introduced a very um, beautiful method, that is monadology. And according to Leibniz also, the philosophy of Leibniz and Immanuel Kant is very similar in many ways. Leibniz says that no perception is possible without conception. We cannot even perceive anything if our mind is not involved there. To that extent, Kant is we can say that Kant follows Leibniz. But Leibniz rationalism was ended in a type of dogmatism, because we cannot ignore the practical world. Conceptual clarity, conceptual discussion is not sufficient, because we human beings, we live in the practical world. There are many practical problems. Leibniz philosophy is more philosophical. It is not practical. It is not critical. But man is not a philosopher, according to Kant. Man is not a philosopher. Man is not only a philosopher. Man has some moral responsibility. Man is a social being. Man lives in society. Man lives in this practical world. So the practical world should not be ignored. So this is the position of rationalism. They speak of a priori or innate ideas, but through innate ideas, we cannot explain satisfactorily, we cannot touch satisfactorily the objectivity of the world. The objectivity is ignored in rationalism. Similarly, the universality and necessity are ignored in empiricism. Locke, Berkeley, Hume, they also introduced their methods, but there are also many problems. Berkeley said that to be is to be perceived. To be is to be perceived. This is the method of Berkeley. But Berkeley did partiality. If we shall take this principle in the strict sense, then how can we say mind exists? How can we say God exists? So here, in those periods, philosophy was not free from politics. They they were fearing, the philosophers were fearing and the popes of the church. So they were bound. They were not free. They were bound to introduce God somehow or other. Otherwise, they will not stand. They cannot. Their thesis will not be as our PhD thesis get approved by the scholars. Similarly, the thought of the philosopher is not should be approved by the religious system. So a philosopher was bound to introduce God, even if it does not suit the method of those philosophers. If to be is to be perceived, it is taken in the strict sense. Then how can we say God exists? Do we perceive God? So Descartes, Berkeley very partially rejected matter, like stepmother, and he accepted mind and God as substances. Then comes Hume. Hume rejected all. Hume followed that principle. To be is to be perceived in very strict sense. What Berkeley could not do, that Hume proved, and Hume did that. Hume said, if to be is to be perceived is taken in the strict sense, then not only matter is not perceived, but also mind is not perceived, and God is not perceived. No substance is perceived, therefore nothing exists. No substance exists. What is the problem of Hume? Hume says everything is subject to change. Even mind does not exist, body does not exist, God does not exist. That is manageable. But when philosophers say mind does not exist, the person does not exist. Not only David Hume, I shall speak of Buddha and Heraclitus, those who advocate the same thing, the question comes to them: if who says that mind does everything is momentary? Who says? Who says that everything is momentary? Who says that everything is changing? Who says that everything is discrete? Who says that there is no logical connection between the ideas? Who says? If somebody says that, that means that person is permanent. That person is permanent. Who is claiming? David Hume. David Hume is permanent. Who is saying? Who is propagating that everything is changed? If everything is discrete, who is saying that everything is discrete? This problem is there. Those, not only David Hume, those philosophers who speak of that everything is a flux, everything is only a flow of sensations. There is no mind, no body, no mind, no body, no God. Then who is speaking that? Who is saying that everything is changing? So there must be an unchanging principle, unchanging entity, at least I, who is who can claim that everything is changing. Kant said, I shall introduce such a method that all these problems, right from Bacon to David Hume, shall be resolved. Shall be resolved because Kant Kant was interested in the nature of knowledge. He says that yes, from perception, we start knowing. Perception is the beginning of knowledge, but from perception, knowledge does not. We can say that only from the perception knowledge originates. Origination and the starting point, they are different. Yes, knowledge starts from perception, but we cannot say that knowledge only originates from perception. As Locke said that from perception knowledge starts, and from perception knowledge originates. That means perception is the only source of knowledge, and whatever is not approved by our perception, we are doubtful about that existence. But according to Kant, Kant says, be a very common man. Kant was very honest. The person who is honest. The person who is honest, he is honest in all the aspects of human life. He should be honest in intellectuality, he should be honest in morality, and he should be honest in spirituality. He should be honest in all the aspects of a human life. I was just reading his childhood life. Kant spent his childhood life at very early age. He was giving tuition to the children. He was a tutor in different families. I felt very shocked. There was such a great philosopher was working in different families, and then he struggled, and his child was very struggling, and then he joined as a lecturer in mathematics and physics, and later on he became a professor of logic and metaphysics. In our country, what we see, suppose somebody is a philosophy lecturer, then he will select which subject he will study. Suppose somebody will say, I can teach Indian philosophy and I cannot teach Western philosophy. If I can teach Wittgenstein, then I cannot teach Advaita Vedanta. But, but in those period, one person, when he was appointed in multiple subjects, that one is a lecturer in mathematics and physics, later on a professor of logic and metaphysics. Discipline, multidiscipline, a lecturer or a professor in multi-disciplines. So this was the versatile talent of Immanuel Kant. And as a man, he was very honest. So now he says, be a man, be a man, be a common man. Silent your mind, and you see actually what is happening. What is happening? What is the nature of knowledge? From which knowledge originates? From which knowledge originates? Is perception enough? Question. Kant said what should be like a philosopher? A philosopher should know the art of asking question. A philosopher should know the art of asking question. Asking question is very important than giving answer in philosophy. From your question, it can be said, it can be inferred, it can be it can be certified that what is depth of your knowledge, what types of question you ask. In I see in the webinars, people just ask questions for the sake of asking questions. But the art of asking question, I'm 1 minute. So innocently ask questions, very pertinent questions, and pertinent questions will come here when our mind is silent. Silently observe what is happening, and then you ask the question. So the first question is perception enough? Is rationality enough? Perception or empiricism, but the source of knowledge as the perception, if we say, can it give us complete knowledge? If our procedure is knowledge, my perception, can it give us, is it the philosophy of a person, or is it the real status of knowledge? That is the question. Yes, somebody says that perception is the source of knowledge, and we say that John Locke says that perception is the source of knowledge, and Descartes says is there. Ask yourself, is it the status of knowledge? Can we say that man is only confined to his perception? Yesterday, when Madam was speaking about David Hume, somebody asked a question, perhaps Dr. Rao asked a question to Madam, that what is the contribution of David Hume to the society, to the science? Madam very honestly said there is no contribution of David Hume, but it is a standpoint. It is the standpoint of David Hume, and philosophy believes in standpoints. So that is true. If I speak something from one standpoint, and that is, I shall say that is my philosophy, okay, but that is not the true nature of our inquiry. When we say that I am talking about, or I am experiencing my source of knowledge or the origin of knowledge, then I should be very honest in my inquiry. Very honest. If I shall say that only perception is the source of knowledge, then I am not honest, because I ignore rationalism. If I say that only reason is the source of knowledge, then I am not honest, because I ignore empiricism. I am not honest in the sense because I am ignoring the contribution of the faculty, one faculty. Because both empiricism and rationalism make our knowledge complete and perfect. And that is the reality, that is the fact. The source of knowledge, the origin of knowledge is a fact. We experience that. What we experience something, but when we rationalize it, when we philosophize it, we speak something else, then it is dishonesty. So Kant, whenever Kant speaks of morality, duty for the sake of duty, he is very honest in speaking of that. That we cannot say something is moral if it is not universally accepted, if it is not impartially accepted. This is the honesty in speaking of morality. Similarly, whenever we speak something, we think something, we philosophize something, we should not give our personal view. We should not give our personal, we should not share our personal philosophy. We should be blank, we should be honest, we should be silent, and we shall observe what really the fact is. Now Kant observe that yes, perception is necessary. We cannot ignore perception because the external world is the counterpart of my existence. Whenever I find myself, I always find myself with an external world. So knowledge, whatever I know through my perception. I have sense organs. My sense organs give give some information about this world. Should we ignore this? This is the question. Should we ignore this? I do can't say. Suppose I am Kant. I shall say I am not advocating any implicit philosopher or any rationalist philosophers. Forget them. Suppose there is no Bacon, no Descartes, no Spinoza, no Leibniz, no Locke, no Berkeley, no him. Nobody is there. No predecessors are there. Suppose Kant is the first philosopher. Suppose I am the first philosopher. Just ask to yourself, do not we need the external world for our knowledge? Do not I have my eye, that my eye is seeing something? My sense organs perceive the external world. It is a fact. It is not a philosophy. Whatever Kant says, Kant speaks of the facts, the very common sense facts. That is no philosophy at all. That is honesty in philosophy. When you when a philosopher speaks the fact, that philosopher is a honest philosopher. If we just speculate something, and in the course of speculation we shall get lost, and we shall not find the direction, the way to the goal to which we are going. That is not the way of philosophizing. No, philosophy does not mean only to criticize the predecessors. Kant is a critic in a very in another sense. Kant is not a critic for the sake of criticism. So don't philosophize. Just ask you to yourself, the external world or the objects, whether the external world exists or does not exist, that is also a separate thing. My sense organs perceive something outside, and my sense organs collect the sense data. It is a fact, or there is anything science or philosophy in it? This is the question. Kant says it is a fact. Yes, in my daily life, I experience that whenever I am waking up from a bed, from the very beginning of the day, I experience. Yes, when I open my eye, I see the tree, I see the building, I collect the data from my sense organs. This fact should not be ignored, cannot be ignored, and should not be ignored. We shall accept this. Number one. Number two, is it the only fact? Is it the only fact? The second question, is it the only fact? Yes, if this is the fact, then the question comes, is it the only fact? Only the perception is source of knowledge. The question comes. Then also I experience, no, these sense data are discrete. These sense data are discrete. In this point, Kant supports David Hume that yes, I admit the sense data are discrete, but that is the premise. That is not the conclusion. David Hume made this statement as the conclusion. Kant says, I admit you, I agree with you that yes, sense data are discrete, but They are they are organized. They are organized. The discrete sense organ, David Hume says there is no logical connection between the discrete sensations. Kant says discrete sensations or discrete sense data are to be organized through mind. So that is a role of mind. It is not a philosophy. It is a fact. When can we see this fact? When we are silent. When we are silent. So Descartes and Kant, they started from their philosophy from silence. From silence. They were meditative by nature. They were very much meditative. They were impartial. They were very much honest. When Descartes says about universal doubt, he rejected everything about to the reconciliation of Kant is become very much impartial. Kant is not advocating empiricism nor rejecting empiricism. Neither he is advocating rationalism nor he is criticizing rationalism. Kant says, forget empiricism and forget rationalism. Come to come to your own experience. What do you experience? In your experience, you see that yes, you have sense organs and you have mind. Man is a psychophysical organism. Man has mind and man has sense organs. Sense organs have contribution and mind has its contribution. Sense organs collect data, sense data, and these sense data are organized, are to be organized by the mind. This is the method of Kant. By this way, he reconciled empiricism with rationalism. That both are necessary. Only perception cannot give us knowledge, and if we shall accept perception as the source of knowledge, then many problems will take place. If we shall say that only innate ideas or a priori ideas or reason are the source of knowledge, then that will also lead to many problems. And be very practical and see that actually knowledge is formed by both empiricism and rationalism. Yes, I need my sense organs which give us sense data, which supply sense data, and these sense data are are organized. Suppose I say grass and a green, but unless I organize grass with green in a judgment that grass is green, if these two sense data are not logically connected, then we cannot have complete knowledge. They should be synthesized in mind. This is one step. Then Kant says, do our sense organs free? Are our sense organs free to perceive anything they like? This question comes. In the first part, Kant said both perception and reason, both perception and reason, both are required for knowledge. Sense organs and mind, both are required to form knowledge. In the second session, second part, Kant is asking the question, are our sense organs free to perceive anything? Is our mind free to conceptualize anything? Here comes the critical part. Yes, I accept that sense organs are required. Sense organs provide us the sense data. Yes, mind is But is the mind free to conceptualize anything? Are the sense organs free to perceive anything? To perceive anything? To these questions, Kant says no. Sense organs cannot perceive everything. Sense organs are not free to perceive anything. Sense organs can perceive things that come under space and time. And mind can conceptualize anything that comes under the forms of a understanding. That is the revolution Kant made in philosophy. Before Kant, when we were speaking of sense organs, perception as the source of knowledge, there was a freedom that yes, sense organ can perceive anything, mind can conceive anything. This freedom is lost in Kant. Kant said mind is not that free, mind is not so free to conceptualize anything else. That is, mind cannot speculate anything. As the speculative philosophy or speculations are concerned, Kant checked that. Kant regulated that. Kant guided that. That no, mind is restricted to certain forms of understanding, and sense organs are restricted to certain forms of perception. There comes these two forms are known as sensibility and understanding. Sensibility and understanding. Knowledge is formal. Knowledge is formal. And the forms of knowledge, according to Kant, one is sensibility and the other is understanding. Yes, I admit that both perception and empiricism and rationalism both are required, but empiricism is not empiricism and rationalism, they do not have free hands to perceive or conceive according to their choices. Whatever we perceive through to a priori forms, that is space and time. Whatever I perceive through space and time. Whatever the object of my perception, is a spaced object and a timed object. I perceive the spaced object and the timed object. Similarly, whatever I understand, my understanding is a categorized understanding. My understanding is a categorized understanding. Both are required, both the instruments are required, but both the instruments are not free, So here comes the boundary. The boundary means what can be known and what cannot be known. I shall take both. In spite of taking both the parties, empiricism and rationalism, still it is not sufficient to know the reality as it is, because Kant is so honest that according to him, this is not a philosophy, this is the fact, of our experience. If we shall look into the fact deeply, all of us, whenever Kant speaks something, Kant does not speak for himself, neither in morality, nor in intellectuality, nor about metaphysics, nor about anything else. Whatever Kant speaks, Kant says that a layman can also think in that way. Just you experience that you experience the limitation of your perception and the limitation of your conception. You cannot perceive anything you like. You cannot conceive anything you like. That freedom you don't have. That is the cognitive limitation. So far as my perception is concerned, I shall perceive that which comes under the two a priori forms. A priori form means a priori form means the form that helps me to perceive, but that is not perceived. As the as the as I see everything through my eye, but I cannot see my eye. As the video camera can take photo of everything, but the video camera cannot take the photograph of the camera itself. That is a priori. A priori means the 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 source is not perceived and the source is not conceived. But without that source, perception and conception are not possible. So if there is an a priori form of our perception, if there is an a priori form of our perception, if there is an a priori form of our perception is formal and our conception is formal. Formal means it is restricted to our limitations. Now come to the third stage. The vast world is before us. What much we can see? What is the range of my perception? What can I see? I can perceive that which only comes under space and time. So here, the things that are beyond space and time, they remain unperceived. They remain unperceived. Suppose 2,000 or 2 lakh students appeared in the IS examination. So in the first examination, in the first part, the preliminary examination, only 2,000 people, students were selected. Then these 2,000 students will appear in the main examination. So all others cannot attend. And out of these 2,000 students, only 200 students will get that civil service. So in the past examination, that is the perception, many things were left out from my perception. I just collect the data which are available by they are called space and time. In the next session, Madam will say about space and time and categories in details. So these are the forms of my perception. About whatever is collected, whatever the sense that whatever is collected through these forms, they will be organized, they will be scrutinized, they will be categorized through my forms of understanding. Mind has also certain forms of understandings like substance, causality, etc. And the things which are only eligible to these forms, they will become my knowledge. So knowledge is the scrutinized knowledge. Knowledge is not that whatever you know, that is your knowledge. So that is not knowledge. Knowledge means the knowledge through space and time in the first stage and through the 12 categories of understanding. This is the uniqueness of Kant's philosophy. Kant, in the first stage, Kant made a reconciliation between empiricism and rationalism, and Kant made a revolution that is called Copernican revolution. Copernican revolution is symbolic by nature. In astronomy, there was a revolution that Ptolemy advocated that the Earth is the center, and that was also accepted at that time. And after many years, Copernicus came and Copernicus said that sun is the center. So this is a very well-known debate and a well-known discovery, and that is that in oh, the it was the just opposite. Whether the Earth was center and sun and other planets were revolving around the Earth, and the just opposite view is that the sun is the center and the Earth and other planets revolve around the around sun. So exactly the same type of revolution is made by Immanuel Kant. Kant said that my sense organs and mind do not have free hands for perception and conception. They are formalized. Knowledge is formalized. In order to know the objects must conform, the objects must approach, the objects must qualify the a priori forms of our perception and a priori forms of our minds. But before that, that was not the situation. Sense organs and mind we are free to perceive and conceive. And that was leading to dogmatism, speculation, etc., etc. Kant, as a critical philosopher, checked all types of dogmatic attitude and speculative attitude of the attitude in philosophical inquiry. So that was the so in the very symbolic is so Copernican revolution, the very name is symbolic. Its meaning is that the as the in astronomy such a revolution was made between Ptolemy and Copernicus. Similarly, Kant made a revolution in philosophy by asserting the status of our perception and conception, which was different from the views of his predecessors. So Kant said that we cannot perceive everything. We cannot conceive everything. Our perception is formalized by our percepts of space and time, and our conceptions are whatever mind thinks, whenever mind makes judgments and mind knows anything, that is scrutinized by the forms of understandings. So that is called transcendentalism, because beyond our perception and conception, there are certain a priori forms which are neither perceived nor conceived. We cannot help. Mind cannot help. Mind cannot help thinking without the forms, and our sense organs cannot help perceiving without forms. This is the limit of our perception and conception. Therefore, Kant says the limit of thought, the limit of thought is not the limit of our explanations. The limit of explanations is not the limit of our thought. Our thought is much wider. Whatever we explain, whatever we know, whatever we describe, whatever mind comes to know, that is only through the forms of understanding. This is the cognitive aspect of man. Man has three aspects: cognitive, cognitive, and affective. And this is the cognitive aspect of a man. But Kant says that man is not only man is not only a philosopher. Man is not only concerned with knowledge. If this is the status of knowledge, we cannot say that I know the noumena. We cannot say that I know the thing thing as it is, but so here the belief and knowing, believing and knowing. So Kant believes in knowing and believing. So Kant believes, yes, I can believe that there is God, there is world, there is soul. And with that regard, he has said about the um, जो कौन जो rational psychology, rational cosmology, rational theology, all these things Kant has discussed, because belief is also a faculty of a man. So man can be religious, man can be moral, man can man should have aesthetic sense. All these things will be there. But so far as the cognition is concerned, we should know the limit of our knowledge. The limit of our knowledge is not the limit of our belief. Yes, I can believe in God, but I can say that I know God. I can believe in cosmology, but I can't say that I know cosmology, because knowledge has its own limitation. Okay. Now, what is the result? If this is the method, then what is the result? The result is synthetic a priori judgment. And so far we discussed about the methods, we discussed about the revolution, we discussed about the contribution of Descartes, contribution of Immanuel Kant to the history of philosophy. But now, what is the result? What is the result out of this discussion? Kant says that now, out of this exercise, we came to the point that we can have synthetic a priori judgments. There is a distinction between our propositions as analytic and synthetic, a priori and a posteriori. Analytic and synthetic statement is based upon meaning. A priori and a posteriori distinction is based upon truth. If the meaning of the subject and predicate is identical, then it is analytic. If the predicate speaks something new about the subject, it is synthetic. So we are concerned with meaning and truth. A proposition has meaning and a proposition has truth. So from the standpoint of meaning, we can make a distinction between analytic and synthetic proposition. That analytic proposition is one in which the meaning of subject predicate is identical. That means the predicate does not speak anything new. The predicate just repeats the meaning of the subject. And in a synthetic proposition, the predicate gives a new information about the subject. Grass is grass, it is analytic, but grass is green, it is synthetic. Because grass is not green. Greenness is said about grass. Greenness is the information about grass. What grass is? Now grass is green. So this is synthetic. But when we discuss about a priori and a posteriori, that is based upon truth. If the truth of a proposition is known independent of experience, then that is a priori, or which is universal and necessary by nature, that is a priori. When the truth of a proposition is dependent on experience, that is a posteriori, or which is objective by nature, that is a posteriori. So out of these twofold distinctions, analytic statements are generally a priori. Analytic statements are generally a priori, and synthetic statements are generally a posteriori. This was discussed before Kant. Kant made a revolution by saying that synthetic propositions, the synthetic a priori possibility, synthetic a priori proposition is also possible. Synthetic a priori statement is possible. Synthetic and a priori statement is possible. Synthetic means something which is based upon perception. As we have discussed, that knowledge starts from perception. Knowledge starts from perception, ends in region through understanding. There are three faculties. One is perception, second is understanding, and the third one is region. The meaning of region is something different here, so I shall not go to that. There are three ideas of region: God, world, and soul. That is, we shall discuss later. So here, synthetic a priori means the knowledge is based upon perception, experience, and a priori means there is a form, there is an a priori form which regulates our perception and conception. What we discussed before. Now, Kant says that synthetic a priori knowledge is possible in that way. But what should be? An analytic proposition should be a priori, and synthetic propositions should be a posteriori. But Kant made a revolution by saying that this is the result of Kant out of his discussion, that synthetic a priori knowledge is possible. Where it is possible? Kant says it is possible in mathematics and physics, and it is not possible in metaphysics. So by this method, Kant says that scientific knowledge about metaphysics is not possible. Scientifically, we cannot establish metaphysics, but we can believe in metaphysics. We can love metaphysics. I can believe in God. I can love God. But scientifically, I cannot establish God. Epistemologically, I cannot establish God. God as an example of metaphysics. Anything metaphysics, anything noumena, that cannot be established by scientific approach. By this, what is the scientific approach of knowledge? Now, the scientific approach of knowledge is knowledge should be synthetic and a priori. But man is not only concerned with knowledge. Man has emotion. Man has also willing. Therefore, Kant says that human self is both phenomenal and nominal. We have two selves, as it is said in Advaita Vedanta, Jiva and Atman. Similarly, Kant says that a man has a phenomenal self and a nominal self. The phenomenal self is concerned with synthetic a priori method. From the standpoint of the phenomenal self, man cannot scientifically ascertain the existence of a God, soul, and world. But within him, there is a nominal self which can love, which can believe in metaphysics. There is no harm. Man can believe, and belief which cannot be criticized by others. My belief is my belief. I believe that there is a noumena, and that is my belief. But I cannot say that I know that is noumena. So noumena is unknown and unknowable, but we cannot say that noumena is unbelievable. No, we can believe in metaphysics. We can believe in God. We can believe in immortality of a soul. Therefore, Kant said, existence of a God, immortality of a soul are and the freedom of the will are the postulates of morality. So far as the morality is concerned, we can believe, not know, we can believe that God is there, and we can believe in the existence of God. We can believe in the immortality of the soul, and that they are the secondary postulates of morality, and the primary postulate of morality is the freedom of will. Freedom of will. That I have a self, nominal self, and that self has a will, and that will is free. My will is free, and from the freedom, when the will is free, one can be moral. So, so Kant's philosophy is very comprehensive. Kant's philosophy includes everything. All the aspects of human life are included in Kant's philosophy. Kant is critical in the sense that when empiricist philosophers say that sense experience is the only source of knowledge, Kant criticized it. When rationalist philosophers claim that reason is the only source of knowledge, Kant criticized it. When philosophers say that we know the metaphysics, Kant criticized it. But Kant is not a critic in that sense. Kant is not so hard by heart. Kant is very soft-hearted. Kant is a very loving person. Kant is very honest. Kant gives justice to all the aspects of human life. Kant says, yes, so far as my knowledge apparatus is concerned, I should be aware of the limit of my knowledge. But I have also emotion. I have also my belief system. I can believe something. Okay, so that is discussed in practical reason, and also Kant is very much aware of the aesthetic sense, that how the nature is beautiful, how there is beauty in the nature, how the human personality is beautiful. Uh, all these things are also discussed in the critique of a judgment. Many people, when our students do not know these aspects. All students are only concerned with the critique of a pure reason, and they only know that yes, the phenomena is knowable, and the noumena is unknown and unknowable. Uh, so this is not what Kant is. Kant is very much famous about his critique of reason when we discuss categorical imperative, his moral philosophy. Kant is very much familiar in that sense. Okay, so now synthetic knowledge should be synthetic and a priori, and it is possible in mathematics. For example, 7 plus 5 is equal to 12. 7 plus 5 is equal to 12. Why it is a priori? Because this is such a statement. A priori means it must be universal necessary. According to implicit philosophers, knowledge is objective, not universal necessary. According to rationalist philosophers, knowledge is universal and necessary, not objective. Kant says knowledge should be universal, necessary, and objective. If we say something as knowledge, then that should be universal, necessary, and objective. So these three will be fulfilled if we say that knowledge is synthetic a priori. A priori means knowledge is universal and necessary. Synthetic means knowledge is objective. Now we have to see how a mathematical statement is synthetic a priori. So for example, 7 plus 5 is equal to 12. How it is a priori? Because 7 plus 5 must be 12. Must be 12. Must be means it cannot be 11, it cannot be 13. It must be 12. So that is, and it is universally true. Wherever you go, whatever, there is no condition. Even Kant says, even God cannot suspend it. If God is under this principle, mathematical principles, that God cannot reject it. 7 plus 5 is equal to 12 means 7 plus 5 is equal to 12. Somebody will say, suppose, so it is very, it is a habit. 7 plus 5 is equal to 12, everybody knows. 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, everybody knows. So there is not, no. If this is a small equation, therefore, it is very easy to know. Suppose we shall take a very big sum as the calculator. In the calculator, we calculate a very big sum. Suppose we shall take a very big, long digits, then we cannot speak of the result. So, but whatever will be the result, that will be the result. That will be the result. The result is unknown. The result is unknown. The result is unknown, but whatever will be the result will be the result. That is the universal and necessary. But how it is synthetic? Synthetic in the sense the predicate is not identical with the subject, because the meaning of a 7 plus 5 and the meaning of a 12 appears to be same, as it is very, this equation is familiar to our experience. Suppose in case of a complex equation, the predicate gives us a new information. Therefore, we calculate. Suppose we are going to a shop and we purchase many things, then we need to know what is the total amount. So that is the information we get by summing up the all the digits. So it is synthetic and a priori. And this is also possible in physics. For example, every event must have a cause. Every event must have a cause. Here it is a priori because it includes an a priori form, that is causation. Causation is a which is included here in this knowledge. So it is a priori. And when we speak every means universal. Whatever is an event, it must have a cause. So this is universal because we are speaking about every. There is no exception. It is universal. And how it is synthetic? Because the meaning of event and the meaning of cause is different. The meaning of the event and the meaning of the cause is different. The predicate gives us a new information, new meaning. In this way, he also said that in geometry, synthetic a priori knowledge is also possible, that a triangle has 3 angles. A triangle has 3 angles. Yes, it is necessary and it is universal, because wherever there is a triangle, it must have 3 angles. And the meaning of a triangle and angle are not same. Triangle is not angle is not triangle. In that sense, it is synthetic. But wherever there is a triangle, it must have 3 angles. It is universal and necessary. But we cannot say that this is possible in metaphysics. By applying this method, Kant eliminated the knowledge of metaphysics, that we cannot have the knowledge of metaphysics. Our knowledge is limited to physics, and even in physics, our knowledge is only confined to the appearance, not the reality. We do not know metaphysics. Even if we claim that we know physics, in physical world also, we can reach only the appearance, not the reality, because whatever we perceive through space and time, and whatever we conceive through the 12 categories of understanding. So by this way, Kant made very much clear about the limitation of human knowledge, that this is the limit of human knowledge. In the next sessions, other concepts of other questions of other parts of Immanuel Kant will be discussed by other speakers. So I may conclude here. Actually, I was blank. I do not know what I said. Um, I just said from my own understanding, from my memory, what I have understood Kant. I have said it without preparation. Please excuse me if I have not given justice to Kant, particularly in this session. I was totally blank because today we shifted home from hospital after 12 days of staying in hospital. And my previous two talks I had delivered when I was in hospital. Thank you all. Now I shall request the moderators uh, to start question and session, but I need only 2 minutes break. Just I am coming. Just 2 minutes. Thank you, everybody.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, we are audible.
So I am really thankful to our speaker, Sri Pramod Kumar Das sir, for his uh, uh, vast ocean knowledge
Madam,
regarding.
madam, wait for a minute. He's not there. He's not there. Let him come back. He's not there. Let him come back.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Hello, shall I start?
Yes, madam.
I can. Hello, shall I start?
Okay,
Yes,
okay,
madam.
madam.
Yes,
Start,
madam.
start, madam.
Okay, okay, okay. So I am really thankful to Sri Pramod Kumar Das sir for his vast knowledge in the philosophy of Immanuel Kant from Bacon to all the touching all the rationalist and empiricist philosophy, their methodology and the weaknesses of their methodology, so that it prompts to Kant to talk about transcendentalism or criticism. And again, when he discussed about the philosophy of Kant, he touched all the points, that is metaphysics, epistemology, and he began his deliberation on epistemology, how he combines, how for him to have a knowledge proper, there must be beautiful amalgamation of both conception and perception, that he beautifully explained. And regarding when he talked about metaphysics, and he very emphatically asserted that metaphysics as a science is not at all possible, but as a human disposition it is inevitable, it has to be there. And talking about, even he also touched all the points of um, uh, Kant as a moral thinker, where he talked of universalizability as a principle, as an ethical principle. And he also talked about how for a knowledge proper we have to fulfill the two criteria or two a priori forms of our perception and 12 categories. And the very beautiful thing that I have pointed out here, regarding which our students really they have doubts, that is the why we say that his philosophical approach is a Copernican revolution, because he summed it in a very beautiful way, that is, instead of mind approaching the object must approach the mind. That is the reason for which we say that he made a Copernican revolution in philosophy. So I can only salute the level of clarity that Pramod sir is carrying with him. and the confidence, the conviction that he carries. I salute him. Now moving on to the topic is open for discussion, and moving on to the question answer session, I request Mrs. Nivedita Priyadarshini to take over and moderate the question answer session. Nivedita Priyadarshini, please.
Thank you, Pramod sir, for your lucid presentation. This will be more helpful to our students. Next topic is Raja Misra. He asked, what are the problems of empiricism and rationalism? If we go with one partially, he would like to highlight in his philosophy.
No, we have discussed that. We have discussed that. Anyway, the problem of empiricism and the problem of rationalism. Yes. In empiricism, we have ignored the faculty of our rational thinking. In rationalism, we have ignored the objective world where we live in. Kant reconciled both empiricism and rationalism. Kant said that I agree with what both of you affirm, and I disagree with what both of you deny. Implicit philosophers affirm that sense experience is the only source of knowledge, and reason is not the source of knowledge. Sense experience has no role. So that was the problem. So made this. Kant took this problem and solved it. In the name of rationalization, in the name of a priori or innate ideas, we cannot ignore the objective world where we live in. We should be very practical. One patient is admitted in hospital. He needs oxygen. He or she needs oxygen. He or needs blood. You will say innate ideas will give blood and oxygen to the patient. We need the external world where we live in. Okay, so the objective world cannot be ignored, and the rational thinking, the faculty of thinking, cannot be ignored. In Kant's philosophy, both are honored. Both sense experience and reason are honored, and both of them, Kant says, this is not my philosophy, this is the fact of life. Everybody can experience that in our knowledge situation, in our knowledge process, we need both experience and reason. Without perception, there is a saying, without conception, without perception is blind. Perception without conception is empty. So Kant's philosophy is neither blind nor empty. Okay, next question.
Okay, thank you, sir. He also asked another question that even if we believe in metaphysics, which is not supported by science, can it be called knowledge?
Very good question. Metaphysics is not supported by science. Therefore, it is not knowledge. It is not our knowledge, but it should be our belief. It should be our belief. Kant says knowledge is not the only faculty of life. We cannot live our life only being knowledgeable. Faith, belief also contribute to our peaceful living. Therefore, in another two critics, critique of a pure reason, a critique of a practical reason, and critique of understanding, Immanuel Kant has emphasized what is not knowledge, what is feeling, morality, emotion, love, beauty, all these things are discussed by Kant. So Kant is very much, Kant's philosophy is very much comprehensive by nature. Kant is not only confined to the source of knowledge like David Hume and others.
Okay, sir. Thank you. The next question is by Amrita Haldar ma'am. She
Yeah,
asked,
yeah,
what
Nivedita,
is a thing in itself
hello,
and thing in...
Nivedita,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The question which was asked, the metaphysics which is not supported by science, metaphysics which is not supported by
Yes, yes, by
science,
Raja Mistr.
can metaphysics
Yes, sir.
be ever supported by science? Science, if we say science, how can we speak of metaphysics? Metaphysics, physics will be separated by science. How can we say that metaphysics is separated by science? Metaphysics can never be separated by science. Okay. We can believe in that.
Okay, sir.
Hmm.
Yes. The next question is by Amrita Haldar ma'am. They asked, what is the thing in itself and thing in themselves in Kant's understanding?
Thing in itself means a thing which is the thing which is not perceived. Thing in itself means the thing which is not perceived, which is not known to us. Whatever is known to us is the thing that appears to us. The thing in itself is not known to us. A thing in itself means a thing which is not perceived.
Yes.
There are
The
two
next
things.
question is by Nanda Ghosh, sir. Um, yes,
Hmm.
sir. Hello.
Hmm.
The next question is by Nanda Ghosh, sir. He asked, he wants an explanation the difference between transcendental and immanent metaphysics. And he has another question also. How Kant establishes is saying that all our experiences are possible for synthetic a priori judgment.
Your, your sound is fluctuating. I
Synthetic
could not hear the second
applied
question.
judgment means all our
Okay, I am
yes,
searching.
he asked how Kant establishes is saying that all our hello.
Okay. I read his question. What is the difference between transcendental and immanent metaphysics? Transcendental and immanent metaphysics. The word transcendental is used in Kant's philosophy in a very different sense. Transcendental means, in Kant, transcendental means something which is the ground of our perception, ground of our knowledge. For example, we perceive something through space and time, but space and time are not perceived. We conceive through categories of understandings, but these categories are not conceived. In that sense, these are transcendental. In that sense, they are transcendental. So transcendental here is epistemological. But in other philosophy, we take transcendental in the metaphysical sense. Transcendental metaphysics, by transcendental metaphysics, we shall say that that reality, that object of a no. By transcendental metaphysics, we shall say that which remained unknown to our faculty of knowing, which remained unknown to our faculty of knowing. That is transcendental metaphysics. And I don't understand what is immanent metaphysics. I don't understand. Immanent metaphysics, I don't understand. Okay, I don't understand. Sorry.
Hello, sir. Can I help you? Hello, sir. Pramod,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
The
Yes,
next
yes,
question
madam.
is
Yes, madam.
Actually, I understand this in this way. I am trying to help Namdaguru, sir. Actually, we able to talk of transcendental and immanent metaphysics. Rather, we talk of descriptive and revisionary metaphysics.
Okay.
Yeah.
Immanent
This
metaphysics,
much
I
I
don't
want.
know what is.
Yeah, this is not there. Yeah.
And the second question is how Kant establishes, he is saying that all our experiences are possible, for synthetic a priori judgments. Please makes all our knowledge possible. Knowledge possible. Yes, synthetic a priori knowledge is possible in mathematics, geometry, and physics. Kant has focused, but that is not possible in metaphysics. I have discussed that. Synthetic a priori judgment. Synthetic means we cannot ignore perception. A priori means we cannot ignore the forms of perception or forms of knowledge. Whenever we know, we need the object of knowledge. But the object of knowledge should conform to the a priori forms of our understanding and a priori forms of our perceiving and conceiving. In that sense, it is synthetic and a priori. Synthetic means my knowledge is objective. Clear? I know something that is synthetic, and whatever I knew through the a priori conditions of knowing. In that sense, it is a priori. In every situation, in every knowledge situation, we get that. But about metaphysics, when we speak of a God, world, soul, we cannot apply synthetic a priori knowledge there. So synthetic a priori knowledge is the method which made a distinction between phenomena and noumena. Whatever we know through our synthetic a priori process, that is only phenomenal. That is only phenomenal by nature. We cannot have synthetic a priori knowledge about noumena. Next.
okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Next question is the next question by Dr. Manwar, sir. He uh, he asked, Kant divides reason into speculative and pure reason. Critique of pure reason that reason contains not only ideas but ideals also. He wants an explanation of this statement.
In critique of a pure reason, Kant does not speak of a speculative reason. I have never read such thing. In critique of a pure reason, Kant speaks of a pure reason, not speculative reason. Speculative reason comes in practical reason when he speaks about God, world, and soul. I think so. Sometimes questions confuse us. When I doubt whether such things are there in text or not. Acha, I request Kalyani Madam, if you know, please
Sir,
clarify.
sir, sir, may I speak?
Yes, 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 sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, actually, sir, actually, Kant when says speculative reason, it means that whatever we perceive as synthetic a priori, whatever knowledge we get as synthetic a priori, and when he says pure reason, he talks only about the ideas which are given transcendently, like God, soul, and freedom. So that is the dividation.
So God, soul, and the world does not come under critique of pure
That
reason.
that sir, excuse me, sir. That is a statement in Critique of Pure Reason when he says that reason contains not only ideas but ideals also.
No, 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 no. If you speak about God, world, and soul, that does not come. That discussion does not come under critique of pure reason.
Gigi,
Okay. So when you are asking a question, you should
sir,
justify the question.
he, sir, actually he finishes with these questions in the
No,
last
no,
chapter of
no.
this.
I, I have made it very much clear that in critique of a pure reason, Kant speaks this much. In critique of a practical reason, Kant speaks of this much. And in critique of a judgment, Kant speaks this much.
Exactly,
So,
exactly.
uh,
Hmm.
so,
Just a minute, sir.
so we should not
Yeah,
confuse one critique with another critique.
Anand, right, right,
Okay,
right.
that should
It's okay,
not
sir.
be.
Thank you, sir.
Therefore, I told Kant was very honest as a philosopher. Kant said, uh, not only not Kant said, I am saying, asking question is very important than giving answer. When you are asking a question, don't confuse. Don't confuse. Because suppose we read a statement, what is in what sense? Who said that? Suppose Y Messi has written it. Suppose Arkevati has written a book. They have described Kant's philosophy. But when we are discussing Kant in original, Kant's critique of pure reason, in Kant's critique of pure reason, Kant is only discussing about the cognitive apparatus of man. What should be the knowledge? What should be the nature of knowledge? Above, and what is left in the scientific knowledge that is discussed in critique of practical reason. What is left in practical reason that is discussed in critique of judgment. In that sense, Kant has given justice to human life. Human life is not only knowledge oriented, human life is filled of with emotion, love, sacrifice, compassion, kindness. Therefore, Kant is very much famous for his morality than his philosophy. Okay, I spoke this as a friend, not don't take it otherwise, because we are also philosophers. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Sir, he also wants to know he wants an explanation of the transcendental idealism which is claimed by Kant.
Transcendental idealism. Yes, yes, yes. That is a very good question. That is a very good question, and I appreciate this question. It was against Berkeley. Berkeley spoke of subjective idealism. It was against Berkeley. Berkeley speaks of subjective idealism, and also against those philosophers um, who advocated objective idealism. But Kant's philosophy is transcendental idealism. Here, Kant says that our knowledge process has certain a priori conditions. Transcendental means the element that helps us knowing is not known. I gave the example that the video camera which shoots everything is not which takes pictures of everything itself. In the process of knowing, we are taking the help of certain forms, certain elements which are not subject to our perception and conception. Kant's transcendentalism means that. Next.
So the next question is by K.O. Narayan Rao sir. If the mind moves to the objects in order to know the objects, then what problem arises in the philosophy of Kant?
If mind moves to the object, mind does not move. Mind does not move. Mind was moving before Kant in all the predecessors. Kant made a revelation that objects move to the mind. Those objects who qualify to the object should approach the forms of mind. In Kant, mind does not move to the objects, rather objects move to mind. The reverse is true. Before Kant, it was said that mind was responsible for knowing. But in
In and
Kant,
through space and time. In and through
ha,
space and time.
it is just the opposite. So Kant made this revelation. Kant said, in the knowledge process, the objects to be known and the object to be the object of knowledge. An object to be the object of knowledge should conform to the a priori forms of understanding. Those who will qualify the interview will get the service. Here, not that the management will give the appointment by taking donation. That was before
No,
Kant.
that is not the no, that is not the point. What is actually that is the revolution that he made, that the objects have to move to the mind in order to be known. But what is the problem if mind moves to the object? He made the revolution. Okay, why that revolution? Okay, I
Oh,
understand that the objects have to move to the mind in order to be qualified by the mind, by the categories and also by the a priori forms of understanding. But
okay, okay.
what is the problem if the mind moves to the object? That is the problem.
Uh, that now if this is the question, then this question is meaningful. Now his question is, if mind moves to the object to know, then what is the problem? The problem is, if mind moves to know everything, then if mind is free to think everything, that I said that in Kant says that our mind is not free to conceptualize everything, our sense organs are not free to sense everything, then what will happen if our mind is free to think everything, or a mind moves to object? So that will lead to speculations without logic, without reason. Therefore, we have speculations. Therefore, we have speculative views. In order to avoid that speculation, in order to make our knowledge scientific, what is the problem? The problem will be unscientific. If mind will move to the object and will have its autonomy to describe anything as it likes, that it will be unscientific by its approach. It will go in any direction. It will be speculative by nature. It will not be scientific. It will not be logical. So Kant, by making this revelation, made the philosophy scientific. This is the problem, and this is the merit. Rao sir, did you get or not?
Sir, now you're clear. Now you're okay. Now your response is okay.
Thank
Response is okay. Okay.
thank you.
Next question is by he asked what are the conditions on which priori is become possible.
How synthetic a priori knowledge is possible? Is it a question to discuss? I mean, it is a question for the sake of a question. It is already said in the talk. So should I repeat that again and again? How synthetic a priori knowledge is possible? Uh, okay, just I
Sir, you
am
have already sir, you have already discussed twice.
question. I
Sir,
request
please
all.
move on to the next question.
Huh.
Sir, please
Yes.
move on to the next question.
Achha, what does Kant mean by transcendental? I have already answered.
Yes.
I have already answered to the previous
Um,
questioner.
transcendental.
Transcendental idealism.
Yes.
What is transcendental by Kant? It is already answered.
The yes. Thank you, sir.
Ratnakar Gajendra sir. Russell is
Yes, sir.
criticizing Kant.
The next thing is why Rajendra asked it is that philosophy not in terms of science subordinate to his philosophical. What is his philosophical reason?
Ratnakar Gajendra is asking a question that I am reading now, but the voice of Nivedita is not clear. Russell is criticizing Kant that philosophy is to be judged not in terms of logic and science. They are subordinate to his philosophical vision. What is his philosophical vision? What is his philosophical vision? His means what? Russell's or Kant's? It is not clear. Anyway, if Russell,
Kant's
huh? What is?
philosophical vision.
Acha. Kant's philosophical vision.
And
What is the
and
philosophical vision of a Kant? This is the central theme of my talk today. I have repeatedly said that the philosophical vision of a Kant does not say that this is my philosophy. Kant says be observe your knowing process. What you speak, what you really observe, what you really experience, what you really experience. So very pragmatically, very practically, if we shall observe the process of knowing, we shall say that we cannot the ignore the contribution of mind, and we cannot ignore the contribution of a perception. Both perception and reason are necessary for our knowledge. Okay. Therefore, it is scientific. Therefore, it is not speculative. And what Russell criticized in not in terms of logic and science. Many philosophers will criticize other philosophers. So we shall not discuss the criticisms of other philosophers. We shall discuss what is the contribution of Kant. This is the contribution of Kant. So Hegel will criticize Kant, Bradley will criticize Kant. We shall discuss when we shall discuss Hegel, Bradley, or Russell. Here we shall discuss what is the contribution of a Kant to the mankind. Okay. What are the conditions under which
so these are the questions. I think the question ends here.
yeah, Nivedita,
Hello.
Nivedita, your sound is not clear. You mute yourself. I am reading and I am answering.
Yes.
I shall read and answer. Your sound is not clear. You just mute and listen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So the question and
Okay, then give vote of thanks. Then thank me. Okay, then thank me.
yes.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
If there
Hello.
is no
Yes,
question, then
ma'am.
thank me.
Okay, Nivedita, shall I start?
Over to Kalyan. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Nivedita. I am thankful to Nivedita for very nicely putting for the questions in question answer session. And I am thankful to the resource person of today, Sri Pramod Kumar Das sir, for highlighting the intricate delicacies of the philosophy of Immanuel Kant and giving justice by showing the dynamic dimensions of the philosophy of Kant. I am really thankful, sir, for your understanding and for your way of expressing and making the a very difficult subject which is full of technicalities, which is full of technical words, making the subject very easy for the participants. So I am thank you, sir, from the core of my heart, from all the on behalf of all the participants, and I am thankful to the members of the organizing committee and those who have very nicely and beautifully arranged continuously. They are arranging every day such programs. I am really thankful to all of them. And again, we wish to in the coming days there are the philosophy of Kant session began from today only, and in the coming days we are going to see very experts, those who are going to address on the philosophy of Kant. And I am thankful to all the participants because the number of questions that indicates their interest in the subject. And I am thank you to one and all. Thank you. Namaskar to all of you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.